Hello everyone and welcome to Changeling Gaming. Today I'll be teaching you how to play Settlers of Catan. Settlers of Catan is a level 1 play-to-learn game for 3 to 4 players that takes approximately 45 to 75 minutes to play, though there are expansions for the number of players. In Settlers of Catan, we play as colonists on a deserted yet resource-rich island, seeking to grow our settlements and outpace our competitors to be the most successful colony. Setup. Take the long side pieces and join them together by attaching the numbers that match to construct the frame for the island of Catan. Then, shuffle together all the hex tiles and place them randomly within the frame. Take the number tokens and place them in alphabetical order based on the letters at the top. Then, place them in order on the board, going in a circular manner from the outside to the inside or from the inside to the outside, skipping over the desert hex. Place all the cards in piles by resource type, and shuffle the development cards and place them in the same area. Also, place the longest road and largest army tiles nearby. Place the robber on the desert tile. Every player chooses a color and takes all the pieces of that color, as well as the matching building reference card. Next are the starting settlements. All the players roll both dice. Whoever rolls the highest will place first, and continuing clockwise around the table until everyone has placed their first settlement. Every player will wind up placing 2 settlements, each with a road that is attached to it. When placing a settlement, take note of the number of dots at the bottom of each number token, because those indicate the probability of that number being rolled. The more dots, the better the odds, with the numbers in red, 6 and 8, being the most likely. You will want to get a few different resources through your initial 2 settlements, so keep that in mind as you place them. In addition, there's also the distance rule to keep in mind while placing your settlements. This rule states that any settlement must be at least 1 node away from all other settlements. So a settlement can be placed only if all 3 adjacent nodes are clear of settlements. Once a player has placed their first settlement and its adjoining road, the last player to place their first settlement will place their second settlement, following the exact same placement rules as before. This second settlement determines each player's starting resources. They gain 1 resource for each of the hexes adjacent to their settlement. Each hex has an associated resource. Brick is gathered from hill hexes, wool from pasture hexes, ore from mountain hexes, grain from field hexes, lumber from forest hexes, and nothing from the desert hex. Because this game has been around for a while, different tables may have different names for the resources, but this doesn't change anything so long as you know what you're talking about. How to play. At the start of a player's turn, they roll both dice and add them together, generating a number between 2 and 12. Take a look at the board and find the hexes that match the number generated. These hexes are the ones that generate resources this turn. Each player gains 1 resource of the hex's type for each settlement they have adjacent to it, and 2 resources of the hex's type for each city they have adjacent to it. If a 7 is rolled, then the robber is activated instead. Anyone with 7 or more resources in their hand loses half to the bank, rounded down. So if you have 7 cards, you have to choose 3 to return to the bank, and if you have 10, then you have to choose 5. Then, the robber is moved by whoever rolled the 7, and is placed on a different hex. At which point the person who moved the robber steals a resource at random from the hand of one of the players with a settlement or a city adjacent to the hex. And as long as the robber sits on a particular hex, no resources are generated from that hex. Once resources have been generated, the player whose turn it is can begin trading and building. In terms of trade, all players can trade with the bank at a rate of 4 to 1, essentially handing the bank 4 of a single resource and getting 1 of any other resource in return. Around the side of the board are a number of ports. These are either a question mark 3 to 1 or a listed resource 2 to 1. The 3 to 1 ports allow the player to trade 3 of any one resource for 1 of any other resource. The ports with a listed resource allow players to trade 2 of that listed resource for any other resource of their choice. On their turn, a player can also trade resource cards with any other player at the table. The contents of these trades are entirely up to the players doing the negotiating, and once an agreement is reached, it must be honestly fulfilled. When a player wants to build, they must pay the appropriate resources to the bank, and then place their new construction in a legal spot on the board. If they cannot legally place a building or road, then they cannot build it. They also need to have the piece available to be able to place it. So each player has a maximum of 4 cities, 5 settlements, and 15 roads that they can have on the board at any point in time. So if all 5 settlements are out, then 1 must be upgraded to a city in order to place a new one on the board. A legal placement for a road is any open side of a hex. Roads cannot double up, and your new road must be attached to a settlement or a city that you own, or another road that you own. A settlement must be placed using the same distance rules outlined in the setup phase, a minimum of 1 node away from every other settlement or city. A city replaces a settlement of the same color on the board, returning the settlement to the player's pool and increasing the number of resources gathered. A road costs both a brick and a lumber. A settlement costs a brick, a lumber, a wool, and a grain. And a city costs 3 ore and 2 grain. Players can also purchase development cards for 1 ore, 1 wool, and 1 grain. Development cards cannot be played the turn they are purchased and have a variety of powerful or useful effects, though you can only play one of them on your turn. The cards include bonus victory points that you can keep hidden in your hand until you have enough to win, road building that lets you build 2 roads when you play it, Year of Plenty that lets you gain any 2 resources of your choice, Monopoly that lets you take every resource of a single type that you name from every other player, and the most numerous card, the Knight card. When played, the Knight card lets you move the robber and steal a resource from a player that is next to the robber's new position. The first player to play 3 Knight cards gains the largest army tile, which is worth 2 victory points. This tile can be stolen by anyone who assembles a larger army than the current holder, though it stays with the current owner on a tie. There is also a longest road tile that functions similarly to the largest army, but goes to the first player to create a road with 5 segments or longer that is not interrupted by another player's settlement. The tile is stolen by anyone who builds a longer road than the current holder, with the current owner keeping it on a tie. The goal is to get to 10 victory points. Every settlement is worth 1, every city is worth 2, the largest army and longest road tiles are each worth 2, and the bonus victory point development cards are each worth 1. So go out there and build your new settlements on this newly discovered island of Catan, and become the first to build and develop a magnificent new society. If you have any questions about the game, feel free to pose them in the comments below, or take a look to see if someone else has already answered it down there, and be sure to thank them if they have. If you want to learn more about what our ranking system means, check out this video here. And if you want to learn how to play more games, check out our playlist here. And remember, keep changing, keep gaming, have fun.